Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European crossover webinar. And have the price for I actually have the chart on Bitcoin, but did want to go in and point out what a strong move that we saw in the indices at the end of yesterday's session, and we actually carried that forward into the Asian session where we really pushed it, made a pretty good run here, and right now with S&Ps, they're about 42.14. They did get up to about 42.17 a quarter, I believe was the high mark. And I'm going to check one thing, but actually I restarted my computer. In fact, I can bring up the news. Hold on. Okay, so earlier we had CPI, and you see we did get French CPI. Now that went off about an hour and 20 minutes ago. And then currently at the top of the hour is going to be the Eurozone business confidence, a business consumer survey, as well as consumer inflation expectations. And as we roll into the States, we'll have core PCE. That'll be at 8:30 Eastern. Personal consumption. And we do get shy PMI at 9:45 Eastern, along with Michigan consumer confidence. That'll be at 10 a.m. Eastern. Let's just go in and switch over to, as I mentioned, the SPOOs. And boy, look at this run that we've had. And actually, it was like I said, it was late in the day yesterday that, boy, we saw this market really swing about backwards and forwards before we saw a pretty good strong surge, and then continued and then took us even further into Asia as we made that run up to about, I think the high was like 42.17 and a half or 17 and a quarter. We did go in and pair back. You can see here kind of pushing back up again. But what a solid move we've had. And since we do have a holiday on Monday, today's going to be in the month, here in the States. So we've seen that solid push. And one of the things I was concerned with yesterday was, we're getting that push that we would potentially go and see. Well, we actually saw the market pair back yesterday, although it was holding at what we call the weekly value line. You can actually see that right here. Came in at 41.94 right there, that volume area. This is for the entire week. And so the market actually yesterday, late in the session, we'd actually had rallied to 42.04 and fell all the way back down to 41.95, rallied back up, came and then touched back again and then took off as we closed out the session. Actually, really after 4 p.m. Eastern, we carried it further just after that because the futures continue, and for another 15 minutes. We do go and get a close, and we take off a little bit longer. But anyway, that being said, we saw this market continue. We see, like I said, the move that we saw, but that 41.94 was very important, and really the market held it up very well. Taking a look at crude oil, wow. The move that we saw in crude oil, we actually made a move above 67, and when we take a look at one of the other charts on the weekly, 67 is a key weekly level. So we're going in, actually I can pull it up right here. So you can see right here at 67, right there, a key level. You see right here, that's a high here. And look at this coming all across these wicks up here. So 67 is a pretty key level, key weekly level. There we are right there. So now obviously we pushed up against, we went above it, but by just a little bit. But you can see the significance here of $67 coming all the way across from here, across these wicks here, then near this high right there, and key level right there. And we're pared back a little bit. Let's move this on the way. Just a little, but not much. But I think our support is going to be at like 66 and a half. I'll take a little gold. Now remember gold, about a week and a half, I guess about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, it hit our interim target, which was 1877. The high at the time was 1876 and 10 cents or something like that. It was only off by less than $1. And then we pared back. We eventually got actually above that 1877. Our next level, if you remember at the beginning of this week, was 1911. And speaking of, let's just go and pull this chart back. Let's go with the so here's a weekly chart of the gold, and remember I had that 1911, nothing fancy, just going across these bodies, and that's exactly where the market went to. Remember that was at the beginning of the week. That was our target, or we were looking for the market to get to, which we had two levels when we started out on Monday, 1898 and 1911. Eventually we pushed a little bit beyond that. I think it was on Tuesday, and then we said, okay, 1911. It actually was it when we came on the air. It was actually had just hit 1911. We were just trading like about $1 lower at the time. I thought about pushing the bias chart resistance at the time, like 1912 or 14. I think, 1911 was our level, so be it. But I think the high might have been like 1914 or something. But you can see the importance of this 1911. It held and we went right there. We're pared back now. When we look on a daily, you can see here that we talked about this, a near gravestone doji. I mean, the week's a little bit longer. Stop me from being the perfect gravestone doji. And then we followed that with a spinning top yesterday, and the doors open for us, as I said, to go a little bit lower from here. I think our bias chart support today is going to be 1873. That being said, we'll take a look at a couple other things. Getting back to the SPOOs, they are, here I am back to the chart again, but I think it is important. Let's go back here. It kind of explains why we're at this level here. Let's see here. Here's cash. And let's take a look at this monthly. And one of the things I was talking about with Simon in the Asian session last night. So you can see, look at this monthly. And each month they've just been stair-stepping. Look at this. Higher, higher, higher. And it looked like potentially we may have been able to break that. It looked like that at the beginning of the week. But you can see here, now we're looking at the cash right now. The weekly close on this was 41.80. Okay, so you can see how close it was. I mean, for the cash, for them to go in and push, to make sure they got a positive month. And these portfolio managers, that's what they've been doing the last few months. And it's just been a stair-step higher, just stair-stepping. And they made that push. And then yesterday afternoon, we actually look like the market could maybe slide. Maybe we might make this number or put it in jeopardy. Today, well, they stepped on the gas yesterday and they just pushed it just like they've been doing the last few months. And while I was telling Simon at the time, I would not be trying to short this in Asia because I thought that we were going to make a run. We would continue, and I said, I think we might make it to about 42. I like 42.14, but I thought 42.17, since it finished so strong, well, that's exactly what it went to, and then it paired back. And it did actually pair back eventually to 42.05. Now, like I said, we're talking about the futures, but once again, the importance of the cash. And unless something really goes crazy, we're going to be closing the month out, which, as I said, Monday's a holiday, so today here in the States will be the end of the month, and unless something crazy happens, we will finish with another positive month. Compliments of the PMs making sure that they push that thing and close it that way. So with that said, let's go on and move into our analysis for the day. Saw an interesting move with the euro. We'll get to that. Just need a little bit of water. So I thought this was interesting. We'll go into the actual analysis here and pull up the notes here. But wow, we finished, like I said, we had this nice run right here. Everything looked pretty hunky-dory, so to speak. But we see this going and drop back in here. And then we finished, like I said, right here with this like spinning, and it's not necessarily a spinning type, but it is a doji. But as I said, after moving to new highs the day before, we'd actually just turned around and laid an egg, and then we're trading relatively quiet. I guess if we take a look at it on a weekly, see how we're finishing the week. Interesting. Look at that. Interesting. And you can see this market has been trying to push higher, and the key was for this market, it looked like it was going to do it earlier this week, was to get above this weekly close of 22.54. They have not been able to do that. You can see where the resistance is right now. Let's take a look at it on the daily. And what we do is we go with the lower body now, using that as resistance. So this body right there comes in at 22.29. There you go, 22.27. That's good. Well, we actually had our resistance right there. We'll complete that for today for a little bit. Support on this pullback right there is going to be key. Look at the 21.40. Let's just take a look at it on the weekly. That would be a pretty good little fall of 800 pips, but that's the next key level on weekly. But on a short-term basis, it's going to be the prior week's low. Still the ways to go, 21.24. That would be the key. Look at that coming across this body and this wick. You see that? If you go with right that body, we push right there, 21.23. Now that's where they're going to probably go to before we see an additional bounce. For today, can we push that low? Probably not. Yeah, that's where it is right there. Let's just go right now with this 21.47. 21.47. And onto the cable. Boy, what a solid close here on the cable. Really quite the move here. And obviously going for that 42.41. I mean, that's going to be our resistance there. So cable posted a solid up move on Thursday with its best recent closing high. Resistance will be 42.40 with support at 41.36. And on to the Aussie dollar. This market just has been just sitting here, just not doing a whole bunch of anything. It looks like he wanted to break, but so far nothing. Aussie spent most of this week flatlining. Support on Friday will be 76.68, where we have that, with resistance at 77.87. Just a little bit higher here. And that support level coming here at this dotted line, but we just haven't done anything with this market. And this is interesting because even though indices are going higher, we're just basically stuck in the mud here. Now we're going to move on to the dollar yen. So the dollar yen ripped on Thursday, taking out the weekly pivot. You can see right here, 957. See right there, key weekly pivot of 957. Move it back to the daily. Resistance will be 1026 with support at 939. Now, it feels like it'd be a little bit of a stretch for it to go to 1036. Actually, I would just look for the market just kind of stay steady at this point. But that's the next logical target. And not that it's that far away, but it's, like I said, we've already had a solid move. To think now we're going to jump up above 110 on up to there would seem a bit of a stretch considering how far we've come. But other than to say, okay, we're here, that's the resistance. The next target is going to be 1026, and that's where we're going with that. And on the downside, same thing, probably thinking, well, they're going to hold a weekly pivot. But if we did pull back, it'd be down to 939. That would be the risk on that. So. Now for the cash dollar index. So the dollar index posted a doji on Thursday. You can see right here with a negative close. Even the body's a little, well, it's not that much wider. But anyway, dollar index just not looking good at all. Resistance on Friday will be 90.36 with support at 89.69. So a little bit of a wide range here. And with that, we're going to move on to Bitcoin. We've actually finally starting to give a little bit. You know how we've been tagging this 40,000 on this run back up in here, and it looked like they would try and push. Although I was even surprised they were even able to make it back up to 40,000, and it almost looked like okay, they're making a pause. They can push higher. To me, it just seemed like wow, it's after the fall back. I mean, they're doing great considering how far we'd come back so quickly, but it just seems somewhat susceptible. At least it is to me, or it appears to be that way. So Bitcoin closed with a negative doji on Thursday. Well, I don't know if you can call that so much a doji here, but a potential test to 34,186. Resistance will be 39,337. You can see here we've already made that push. We're actually trading fairly quiet right now. We did want to make that break lower already. I don't know why it didn't update with me. It was almost like showing it like this, so I'm not sure why I did that. Maybe I should have just updated the chart to weekly and then daily. But anyway, that being said, we're looking now, and we already made that, basically already made that run here. And here was the support here. So at this point, at least for today, support's going to be right there. 33,395. Resistance, on the other hand, oh, right there. You can see that one right at it. $36,702. And on to the S&Ps. So the S&P closed Thursday rallying into the final minutes. Resistance will be 42.22 with support at 41.94. So it looks like it achieves a wide range, but not really. Initially yesterday when we were making the run, I was looking for the market to, at least I thought it was going to open around 41.98 and then maybe rally up and gun some stops to 42.04 and pair back. Well, remember, before we even cash opened, we rallied all the way up to 42.04. I'm like, forget it. This thing's not going to stop. It's going to want to move higher. And I thought we might even be able to get up to 42.14. If I remember, that was a resistance level, a bias chart resistance level for us. I think it was 2 days ago. I believe it was. Might have been 3. So now what we'd be looking at potentially is 42.22. When we open up, if we continue that push, it's going to be 42.22. Now, if we board a break back, and we did see that this morning after we got to 42.17, we did go in and pair back. See here down to almost 42.06. So if we were to break lower, we could actually drop all the way back to 41.94. And that's that weekly level. You see that right there? That's the volume for the week. Obviously, it goes much slower. That's the high volume mark. Right now, the high volume mark for today is actually right there, 42. It's 42.09. If the wheels would have come off the caboose, I don't see that, but the risk would be down to 41.94. Initially, you'd be looking at 42.04, but once again, like I said, if we see some pressure, I think at the very least you'd see 41.98. But the real support, if you're looking, if you're getting long on pullbacks, the risk would be the 41.94. And the market's done a great job. It did that yesterday afternoon of holding that 41.94 also. A little bit wide, but that would be the risk. Now to the Nasdaq. Nasdaq has been interesting in the sense that it hasn't had the same reaction to the move that we've seen in S&Ps. They're not exactly the same anyway, but we have gone and challenges 13,715 and actually looked like they were going to make it to 13. Pull this up a little bit closer. You can see right there, 715. Looked like we were actually going to make it to 13,728, but the real resistance or initial resistance comes in at 13,767. Let me open this up a little bit. Might make it easier to see. Comes in at 13,767. My thought was if we got above that, if we made a push below 28, 767 would just be a mile marker before we made it up to the real resistance where you can see here, 13,812. Well, the market just does not seem to want to go on and venture, even with the S&Ps. We just don't seem to be able to have the push to go much further here with the Nasdaq. And actually, we'll pull this up. They're not going to finish with a positive monthly close, but all the action has been in the S&Ps anyway. But it looks like we're not going to get a positive monthly close. We would have to, I think we have to rally like 150 handles for us to go with the positive monthly close. But we'll see how this plays out. But certainly not the big thing as we've got in the S&Ps. Kind of been jagged and all over the place. Look at this. Look like, okay, now we've got the top. Now for sure we've got the top. Broken over, they're going right back. And look, decent close to the prime line, but right now, market may be looking a little bit higher, a little bit peaking. Well, that's on the cash. So resistance, I don't want to put it at 715, but that's, you can see how strong this market's held against that. So we'll go with just the 13,767, and really, I'm not even sure they would make it there. Previously, I thought, okay, that would just be a mile marker before we get to 812. That's where the real resistance would take place. But right now, I think it'll have a tough time getting past 728, and if it does, then it would be capped by 13,767, and we'll use that as our resistance. And on the downside, this 652 held like a champ yesterday, and that was a key level on the 2-hour chart. You can see that right there. If we were to break lower, let's go right there with 13,628. That 13,585, unless the Nasdaq will really start to sell off, and you never know because we're not going to get a positive monthly close maybe with that monthly close we're looking at, that might open the door. You can see how we almost have like a shelf here. That might open the door next week for us to make a move down to right there, 543. There's a pause at 585 there. Let's go on moving to the gold market. So gold posted a spinning top on a spinning top doji on Thursday, following Wednesday's gravestone, not a perfect gravestone, but Wednesday's gravestone doji. Support will be 1873. Really, that's if the wheels come off. Or maybe not come off, but we were to see some more selling, and we're not really seeing that. Probably for right now, you're looking at about 1882, and then beyond that, 1873. So the market's not giving us a suggestion it's going to break lower, so let's go to 1882. Then the upside of 1902. And let's go move into crude oil. Well, we did point out the crude that key weekly level of $67. And here we are on the 2-hour chart. Crude oil closed to near $67, which is going to allow a move to potentially 68.08. Look on that weekly chart. The next level. $67 is a weekly level, so we're just going to treat $67 as a resistance, and support will be 66.42. So let's go with this. $67.10, and support 66.42. And there we have it. Revised chart. And we're going to get that posted in the room, and we'll see in the chat room. And Monday will be a holiday here in the States. And I think someone said that it's also a holiday in the UK, I think they said. So, or Germany, one of the two. So, probably a really dead day on Monday. But we'll see how we close out the end of the month with SPOOs. And Nasdaq certainly looked like it's forming like a ceiling. That might open the door next week for a quick move down to 13,541. We're currently at 13,692. And thanks for joining us here on the European Crossover Webinar.